How are you?
I'm good, mate. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, playing a bit of golf.
I like the multitasking. This is cool.
Yeah, Thornhill ADHD band.
Thank you both for coming on the show and joining us live from a golf course. That's a definite first for the podcast, so I appreciate that.
Thank you for having us.
No worries. I guess let's just talk about the new record to kick things off. Third studio album, Bodies, comes out on April 4th. I've already heard the record. It fucking rocks. Congrats to both of you.
Like it?
Thank you, man. Thank you very much. I'm glad you liked it.
Let me dissolve your fleeting power with all of the words that I uncover you. It's in my head, it's taking over, but I need too much. Let me untouch your fate, 'cause I'll mess with it too far. I feel
Let's kind of talk about the record. I guess, Jacob, if you could start, tell me something about the record that people might not realize. What's a little hidden detail, secret, something people might not know about the record?
Maybe that we recorded it in Mater's lounge room.
Okay.
We did the whole thing in his lounge room and kind of did just kind of run and gun. Like it's the most we've ever we tried to not put as much weight on everything because I feel like for Heroine we just put a lot of thought into every single avenue, and this time we kind of just trusted our gut, trusted the creators around us, kind of just spat balls. So we did about 2 weeks with Sammy B, our producer, drummer of Ocean Grove, and we kind of just sat in Mater's living room and just figured it out.
Yeah, that's sick. And Ethan, what was that experience like for you to kind of just, I don't know, rip it live in a lounge room and kind of throw ideas at the wall and see what sticks?
It was sick. It was a little daunting initially, I think, because like Jacob was saying, in the past we've been so calculated about everything, and everything's sort of taken probably too much time.
Yeah.
So I think we went into it being a little bit like, oh, what if we can't get enough material done in this time, and what if it's not going to be enough? But it was kind of not that it was like a pressure cooker, not that there was any pressure on the situation really, but I think just all of us being together again after lockdown in a comfortable space was just the perfect environment to just get shit done.
Yeah.
And like I said, not think about it too much, which was kind of the best part. It sort of made the whole thing a lot more enjoyable. It would just sort of progress as things felt hot.
Yeah. I guess talk to me about that kind of desire for immediacy and presence, this idea of being more spontaneous and less kind of rigid or structured with the concept and the feel of the record. Is that kind of a response to the process of creating Heroine and then having to play it and play it live? Did you guys just want something that felt more, I don't know, loose and immediate? What was the desire there?
I would say so. I also think because Heroine was written in lockdown, everything was, maybe not everything, but I think a lot of it ended up being kind of overcalculated and overcooked. So by the time we took it to stage and we started touring it, we all sort of felt that there wasn't a lot of natural transitions between parts, and there were parts that didn't really need to be there, but we were trying to convey this sort of big image or this big message that just didn't really land with the crowd and us, because by the time we'd started this initial demo and by the time the song got to its final point, we were just completely different people.
Yeah.
But I think having these these songs being banged out in some of them in an afternoon, we were just this is exactly the mood that we were feeling. It was just we just wanted to capture lightning. We've never done that before.
With the kind of concept then, I guess what is the overall theme or vibe necessarily that links the tracks on Bodies together? Because if Heroine has this kind of meticulous narrative kind of concept, what's the comparative for Bodies? Is there an overarching concept or theme, or is it really just this collection of vignettes in the present moment?
I would say that we have this thing where we just kind of follow the endorphins, and it was just there's no overarching it's all supposed to be in the same movie sound.
Oh, Tiger Line.
I would be the
But it was just kind of everything that we thought felt cool at the time in the space of that sort of month.
Yeah.
I think it's also that overarching thing of like grunge and 90s and like the 2000 stuff where it was like everything felt like, I don't know, kind of everyone did it in their garage and it was cool because of that. And it was just kind of less effort, more like, do we think this is cool right now? Cool. Let's just follow the endorphins, like we said, and let's really get in a space with it. But I think it definitely took its own course by the end of it. And I think they all kind of connect throughout somehow. I wouldn't know how.
Yeah. I think like I resonate with that idea so much because I'll say like the first time I heard Silver Swarm, like that groove just like would not leave my fucking brain. And it was like pure endorphins. I was like, this is a fucking irresistible groove. And I can imagine like hearing that in the studio, you're like, oh yeah, we're onto something here. Let's fucking follow that. So I guess like, do you guys have standout tracks or moments on the record where you were like, we're fucking cooking here. Like this is good shit.
Probably Diesel, hey?
Diesel's initial name was Bodies. That's where the name came from. We just didn't have a better album name, so we're just like, fuck it. It also summed up a really like quintessential part of the writing process, I would say, because that was Jacob, Sammy, and I cooking at like 2 a.m. while Mater was asleep on the couch behind us. And we just basically had this like riff and this half chorus idea. And we're just like, what if we just fucking flip the riff around and repeat it again and just write it out on this like 2-minute song? It's just all gas, no breaks.
Yeah, let's
We
go.
just thought that sort of perfectly summed up the album and how we
The
sort
record,
of
yeah.
Yeah. I think like calling it Bodies makes total sense to me because like so much of it is designed to be experienced live and to really kind of make people move, right? Like to make the body move. And I mean that's what I hear on record. I haven't seen it live yet, but I would imagine that's what you're going for. You're going for that kind of subconscious, somatic, everyone's just fucking grooving in whatever way they feel. That's what you're trying to get.
Exactly. I'd say that,
and I think we're go for it.
I'd say that was the one conscious thought we had going into this record was just bringing back that sort of pace and the rhythm again, because we wanted to feel like we could move on stage and we wanted to see people moving again because we sort of missed that in our live show.
Yeah.
And I think we like the idea of like the album name encapsulating the whole record, no matter how many different songs and genres we kind of fit into it. And I think Bodies kind of could be used for any song, and it kind of makes sense for everything as an overarching theme. So I think we were happy with that. But it was another one of those decisions where we were like, oh, I don't know, could be good, could be not. We just kind of locked it in, and I think we fell in love with it.
Yeah. What I admire about the band is that you guys aren't afraid to take these risks and to take these creative jumps because I feel like that's where the best kind of growth really comes from. I was watching the Audiotree live session that you guys did last year, which is phenomenal, by the way. And there's a part in there. Oh, you're welcome. And there's a part in there where you talk about the vibe of the band changing from project to project and changing as you change, as the individuals that make up Thornhill change. Thornhill is going to change. I know there was a lot of discussion on the shift from the Dark Pool to Heroine. Talk to me about the shift from Heroine to Bodies. What was going on in your own lives? How do you feel you changed as individuals, and how did that affect the record?
I think so much of it kind of came down to like our life becoming touring because, you know, before that we were just, I think I'm up here somewhere. I can't tell with all the soap, bro. Where are you? Do you want to just take a club?
You guys need a
because,
caddy. You need someone to
I
like
know.
control the game while
We're
you're doing
each other's
this.
caddies right now. It's because there's all this soap on the course and everything looks like a ball. Pretty bad. But yeah, basically just, as your life becomes touring and it kind of starts going from like sometimes we're in a band, sometimes we're working our other jobs and blah, blah, blah. We kind of just like took the risk for our mental capacity and just was like, all right, this is going to be full time, even though we can't afford it. So like, let's live it, let's breathe it. And I think every decision we made was to benefit things that we didn't know we needed until we started that journey.
What about you, Ethan? What was the biggest kind of change in your life?
I would say probably just not putting so much pressure on the writing was a big part of it. I think over the course of like Heroine and lockdown and even sort of the Obsession Viper Room sort of phase of writing, I think I just had kind of a bad relationship with it because I was just holding too much pressure on myself to sort of come away with something every day, sitting down at my desk expecting to have, the next single out or something, but it's just like, that's not how it works. So I think just riding the wave and enjoying it for the sake of it and just, hanging out as the four of us together again was like something that was really missing from the last record.
Yeah. And I guess like that kind of links into what you mentioned before about following the endorphins, right? Like if you're not following the endorphins, if you're not enjoying the process, then the material that comes at the other end of it is probably not going to be that great. So you got to find the joy again to do what you're doing.
Exactly. Otherwise, you just won't ever stick to it.
Want to do this? It's like there's no point in doing it.
Let's talk about the record in a little bit more detail. There's a couple of deep cut tracks on there that I think are really kind of special outside of the singles. I already talked about how good Silver Swarm is as a single, but I also really enjoy Only Ever You, which directly follows it. Is there a particular kind of story behind that one, Jacob?
Silver Swarm?
No, Only Ever You, the following track.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's probably the first. Well, I really wanted to write a love song, to be honest, and I feel like there's so many ways people have done that, and there's so many ways that it has been done that I didn't like and I didn't connect with. And I felt like I learned a lot through the Heroine writing process on writing emotively without giving it away too much. So I'd say Only Ever You is definitely more for like a love song for our partners to kind of connect to when we're away and for people to connect to their other partners, because it's like the thing about a love story in my head is that it's not all positive because love isn't so easy. So I think it kind of ebbs and flows with the song, and the lyrics kind of have their positive and negative connotations. And you can, a lot of the time when I'm writing, I don't want to give it away. I want people to think about what it means to them because, that's fucking the most important thing, really.
What I really appreciate about the kind of career trajectory that you've taken from Heroine through to Bodies is that you're not afraid to be sexy, for lack of a better term. And I know that there's a lot of like stuff online about, it's like horny for Thorny or like Thornhill or whatever. But like there is an element of sensuality to what you're doing in these songs, which I think is kind of, I don't know, missing from a lot of heavy music. There used to be a real kind of sense of like sexiness and sex appeal to this kind of music. Is that something that you guys actively thought of, or is that just like an organic thing of following the endorphins and you might get a little bit horny with it?
I think with heavy music, it gets confused with character because I think you listen to R&B and pop and they have an emotive voice that isn't exactly like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the thing with heavy music, because all you do is sing and scream, it's very hard to create your personality through that. And I think sometimes the sexiness can get kind of mismatched with just like bringing character and emotion to riffs drum movements and fucking vocals, I think. But like on Heroine, yeah, we were definitely doing that.
So also it's just like kind of ingrained in our taste to a certain extent. Like some of the core albums that make up like all mine and Jacob's music taste, like is like, Future Sex Love Sound by Justin Timberlake, or even Justified. And then even things like Blood Sugar Sex Magic by the Chili Peppers, and that shit just has like sex kind of oozing out of it.
Yeah.
So it's just that sort of rhythm, it's that sort of feeling. Like, to be honest, even Obsession, like a few of the riffs in Obsession were like massively inspired by like the title track of Blood Sugar Sex Magic.
I'm a little bit older than you guys, but I know that you've talked about your affinity for like the late 90s and the early 2000s. And what I think people often miss about that period in time is like, yeah, there was great heavy music. There's, the new metal wave, screamo and post-hardcore, metalcore, all that sort of stuff was like popping off. But at the same time, there was like great rap, hip hop, R&B stuff that was like in the mainstream consciousness as well. So you could be listening to a heavy song, you could be rocking out to Limp Bizkit, but you're also like vibing with like a Nelly song or something. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So like,
Exactly. Because they weren't that far apart.
That's right. They're all still about like creating a vibe, creating a genuine kind of mood and feeling. It's just a different kind of thing. So like
that exact sentence is like the main thing that draws us towards that era, and why it plays such a big part in our sound. I think it's because we love that whole concept of just like creating this mood and creating this atmosphere for people to sit in. So it's just more than just, it feels like more than just the audio,
Yeah. I guess on that note, like what was something that each of you were listening that people might not immediately associate with Thornhill? Do you have like palette cleansers, stuff that you listen to that's not really for the creative part of Thornhill, but just for your own kind of listening pleasure?
Probably jazz lo-fi.
I'd say like D'Angelo's Voodoo album is a pretty regular one for me.
What is it about that that draws you back to it?
It's the feel and the instrumentation. I feel like that was just after like Jay Dilla was doing his like donut stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that whole concept of like playing behind the beat, and I feel like that was like the very early stages of that sort of music, and just hearing like really, really talented jazz musicians play these like hip hop grooves behind the beat, while this like smooth dudes just like rapping over the top of it. It's just like a match made in heaven.
Yeah. And see, like that might be, I guess maybe to like the average fan, that might be something that they don't quite hear, but like I could hear some of that on Revolver. Like in the back end of Revolver, there's like a real like stuttering kind of groove that's like off kilter and off like the main beat. So is that something that you guys are like trying to casually bring into what you're doing, is like pulling from those different disparate influences?
Yeah, for sure. We sort of made a conscious effort at songs, especially the groovier parts, at least instrumentally. I think Jacob too, with his sort of vocal deliveries, is just like trying to sit behind the beat, because we're not like the sorts of musicians that can just get into a room and just hit record and fucking record the room and it sounds sick and that's the record. Like it's still in a computer and everything is edited to a certain extent. But like
as little as we can.
As little as we can, for sure. But like, it's 2025 and that's sort of how records are made, especially in this sort of music. But like we definitely made a conscious decision to sort of focus on the groove and sit behind the beat in a couple of those a bunch of those takes, whether it be like, guitars or drums or even vocals.
Yeah. Let's talk about the live show for a second. I know you've got some album release shows coming up. They're all sold out, so they're going to be kind of a packed house. When you're preparing the vibe of a live set, are you guys really trying to focus on the new stuff and how to present that to people in a live arena? Are you trying to weave in some of the older material to kind of like keep people's attention? What's the process like?
I'd say it's a weird one, because like the older stuff, because we tour so often, like the older stuff just sort of becomes muscle memory at that point. I feel like we definitely try and show it some some different light and still bring it the same energy as the new stuff, because obviously we're more excited about that.
Yeah. And we've just been playing it so much that we kind of, for ourselves, need to play it a bit closer to what we're playing everything else like. Give it a bit of new life, or like the newest, the older stuff.
In terms of like what we were talking about before with like trying to harness the bodily response to music, right? Like, does that affect...
you fucking cunt. sorry.
No, that's fine. Does that affect kind of like what songs you're playing in sequence and what order? Like, are you trying to like, I don't know, kind of like a playlist, right? Like you're trying to like get people to a high, bring them down to a bit of a low, kind of like keep the energy constantly changing so that people are, you know, moshing as well as dancing, push pitting. Like, do you think about that at all? Or is that something that's just more organic and in the moment?
No, we definitely think about it a lot. Building a set list is one of the hardest things you can do. Building a set, or at least something that we struggle with a lot. No, it's definitely an important thing to get right, because you really don't want to, you know, be giving all your hits away, or you don't want to be playing songs too early and this and that. But I think it's definitely important to kind of have an ebb and flow throughout the set list so people can stay excited. And you're also giving people a rest, and you're giving yourself a rest, and you're working with the guitar changes and et cetera and et cetera.
Yeah, there's a lot of logistics behind the scenes that people might not anticipate. So I'm sure you have to kind of consciously factor those in to kind of make the whole thing as seamless as possible.
Exactly, yeah.
To kind of wrap up the main portion here before we get into some Patreon stuff, the final kind of quote in the press release talks about asking people to connect with the record on their own terms. So for each of you, I guess, could you like elaborate on what you mean by that, and what would be your ideal listening experience for Bodies if you could curate that for people? Ethan, do you want to start?
Damn, that's a really hard question. It's a good question. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just like, I feel like seeing it live would be the best time to hear it, because I think that's sort of how we wrote it. Like, we, as much as we don't really listen to heavy music anymore, it's like we still love the energy that like heavy music brings to the stage, especially like we were saying in, you know, that like late 90s sort of era, when those like metal shows and stuff were just going like crazy. It was like going to like a massive hip hop show.
Yeah.
And I think that's the sort of vibe we wanted to bring, and I think what we're trying to bring with this live show. Like we've all been working really hard towards the our live show in general, but especially the new stuff. And we're feeling really good about taking it to the stage this year.
Yeah, sick. Jacob, do you have anything to add?
No, I kind of back that. I mean, it goes with the whole MTV side of things. I think the live, you know, rawness of it is sick, but also maybe pre-gaming a fucking night out would be fun too. Listen to the album in full.
I'll kind of wrap up the main show here, and I'll have links in the description for people to pre-order the record, stream the record, go to shows, all that sort of business. So thank you, boys, for coming on the main show. Subscribe now to the Pitch of Discontent Patreon to receive access to extended cuts of our bonus episodes, as well as exclusive behind-the-scenes content, monthly Patreon-only episodes, member-only votes, the TPD community chat, and much more. Go now to patreon.com/TPDpod and join for as little as $5 a month. That link again is patreon.com/TPDpod. Thanks for watching the show.